Hello and welcome back to We Met Behind the Castle. I am your host, Logan Stump, and today I have a special guest, the Wolverine to my Deadpool, or I guess I would be, I guess I'd be Wolverine, huh? Because I'm Logan.
Yes.
The dreams behind my clouds. What else can I call you? The Anna to my Elsa, the Goofy to my Pluto. It is Jordan Wiegand. He is back, and he is Jordan. It's been a long time since I've had you on, maybe about a year, I think.
Yeah, I've not been on this iteration
Yes.
of the podcast.
Yes, it is alive, as they would say, I guess. But yeah, we're back. Episode
We
5.
keep trying to kill it and it keeps coming back.
Jordan's like, it's a variant. It's this variant.
This competitor needs to die.
Yeah, so if you don't know, Jordan, if you'll just tell us a little bit about yourself and where we can find your podcast. I know this is a huge ordeal to take on, but if you'll just kind of tell everybody where they can find your stuff.
Yeah, my podcast is called We Met in Front of Splitsville. And oh no, that's where we met. Okay.
Yes, that's where we
No, my podcast is called Behind the Dreams. There's just something about the people that live in 14301 and naming their podcast with behind in the title for a Disney podcast. Behind the Dreams podcast, we're kind of like I wouldn't say hiatus. We just kind of talk when there's actually stuff to talk about. You know, I'm not going to be pumping out content that's like top 10 restaurants. Like, you know, we're just, my co-host Jack and I are very busy and we kind of get together when we can. And I've supplemented that time with 20 other podcasts that I do. So Disney adjacent at times with Marvel, you know, to the Infinity Saga and beyond, and Disney adjacent with Star Wars. The Pod Awakens, which Logan is on doing a chronological Clone Wars watch. So we're wrapping that up in September. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been great. Love talking this. I've had this podcast since 2017. We just reached 104 episodes. So we're averaging, I don't know how many. How many is that? Like 2 a year? Or like but you know, I really wanted to get that over the line at 100, and it feels good. You know, we met in Disney and we've become friends for 11 years now. Almost to the day.
Yeah, I was going to say that anniversary is
coming up
August 5th, right? Yeah. So
that's when we started. August 4th is when we met.
That's right, because we met in front of Splitsville, which is it's going to be our
spin-off. It's the spin-off it's going to be of this bit. It's where we talk all things Splitsville.
Yeah. I mean, looking at their menu, I think you could. There are no updates for D23 that we know of for Splitsville. But yeah, that's what we're here today, Jordan, doing. And I am so excited to have you back on because we have a lot to talk about. It's going to be a lengthier episode, but we're going to talk about all things D23. It does start next Friday, August 9th, and that will include the entertainment panel, which is at 7 p.m. West Coast time. So I will be up late, as I imagine Jordan will be as well. Jordan's usually a late night owl, I guess. Catching up on all things entertainment. We're hoping to get some trailers, and we'll talk about each of these different things as we kind of go. We're gonna segment this episode based on different sections of the Disney company, but we're gonna stay domestic. We're not gonna try to guess at the international parks, but I feel like Disney's pretty much done with the domestic parks for now because they've got a lot of things going on, and Paris never seems to add anything, so that's one park we could eliminate pretty quickly. But yeah, Jordan, I guess kind of launching into it, what are your thoughts overall? What's the temperature like as far as Disney? I know there's been a lot of backlash. There's been
77 degrees.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Okay, sorry.
Yes, we were just talking about temperature. Although I think that's crazy. 77 degrees. I think I would start sweating in that room if I was.
Yeah, I'm starting to sweat in this room.
Yeah. That's because, Jordan, we're starting to get really excited about D23. But yeah, what's the temperature? What are you feeling as far as D23? Excited, nervous, skeptical?
I don't know. Riding the high of Comic-Con, right?
Yeah.
That was last week. From when we're recording this. I don't know when you plan to post this, but you know,
we'll post it Friday. So
Friday, okay,
yeah, Friday. So
yeah, so almost exactly a week from Comic-Con and the highs of that, where you know Marvel announced some big things. So maybe we're looking at on the movie side them not announcing a lot of big things at D23, probably maybe focusing on smaller stuff there. And for the parks side of it, and just kind of like D23 as a whole, I think this could be a really big year. I think they're going to have to drop some stuff. Last year was kind of a not a real D23, right? It's Destination D23, and they wanted to do it for the 100th year of the company, and they shared like blue sky concepts. Or was it 2 years ago they showed blue sky, and last year they showed some other stuff?
It was 2 years they showed blue sky. Last year was like their confirmation of blue sky stuff.
To force Chapek to actually do stuff. They're
Yeah, they really did.
Hopefully
Yeah.
he lets us do it. And then the last year we kind of got a better look at what they're nailing down for that stuff. So hopefully we get more concrete information this year. Just that's the unfortunate thing. I think a lot of times people look at like Universal. I don't want to get into like a Uni versus Disney thing, but and we do see how fast Universal does build and stuff. But Universal also doesn't have one of these type of situations where they have a D23 type of thing that they come out and they say, we got to reveal stuff. They just reveal it whenever it's close to being ready because they don't have anything to show like this. Disney is beholden to the shareholders and comes out and has these D23s. That's partly their fault for doing it as well, but they want to generate the hype. So I think sometimes it seems like it takes longer when it probably takes the same amount of time. It's just that Universal doesn't announce it super ahead of time the way Disney announces everything, super ahead of time. So, yeah. So, at this point, we've been living with the Beyond Big Thunder and the Animal Kingdom changes for quite a while, 2 years. I want to start getting actual like concrete stuff so we can start actually looking forward to it and know when it's going to happen.
Yeah, no, I think you hit it in every spot that people have been talking about. I think you hit and have a good, I guess, bird's eye view, gave a good bird's eye view of how Disney fans and Disney investors, and we're investors of money, but we're also investors of time and love and energy into this company. And Jordan, for so long, I mean, 2014, 2016, between our programs and then after our program, even 2018, they were announcing a lot of things. And you and I have talked about this multiple times where I think we're a lot more level headed in the fact that like 2020 was a big time game changer. It canceled a lot of the projects. Mary Poppins was canceled. The new Reflections Resort was canceled. They had expansion to Epcot that had to be scaled back because of it. Like there were a lot of things that changed the trajectory, I think, of the company. And I think 2016 and 2018 were just laden with a bunch of updates, and we were constantly getting news of different things coming to different domestic parks. And then they took a break, and then all that stuff started to happen internationally. I think people forget how much has changed internationally with the Tokyo park and with Shanghai being a new park and Hong Kong adding different expansions, Tokyo Sea. I mean, it seems like they've focused their energy there and now they're back here. And if you think about the cycle of a company, it makes sense. It's been about 8 to 10 years, and now we're going to start to get more updates back in these domestic parks. So I think you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. You can't announce new things every year. And I think that's kind of where they got trapped is they had to just keep announcing new and new and new because Hollywood studios had changed so much. Animal Kingdom was changing so much. Epcot started to change. Like I felt like it was announcement after announcement. Marvel got into that swing of everything they were doing was touching gold or was turning to gold. And then all of a sudden it didn't. But kind of turning our attention, we'll get started with it. But I think you really did hit them all in the head was just the fact that I think people are ready for big time changes to be announced and some concrete things that we've been dying to hear. And I think we're going to get those. I really do. Overall temperature, I'm feeling like we're going to get quite a bit where they started to have to release things because they can't fit all of this into that Horizons panel that they're going to be doing on Saturday, August 10th. So we're going to jump in though and preview what we think about as far as the ninth. But before we do that, Jordan, I just want to do like a quick run through of what we know already before we really launch into some of the predictions and some of the discussion that we're going to have. So $17 billion was approved underneath the new deal in the state of Florida that will $17 billion is going to go to Walt Disney World. And that deal lasts until 2040. So $17 billion Disney's been approved by the state to invest in the Florida parks and resorts. And then you've got on May 7th, 2024, the Anaheim City Council voted unanimously, can't speak, to approve a $1.9 billion 10-year investment for the expansion of Disneyland Resort. So there's all the money. We've been looking for it. We have found it. And that's a ton of money to do a lot of things with. Jordan, Animal Kingdom is getting a Zootopia 3D show in the Tree of Life. And that was announced. It's going to be a show based on some of the famous characters like Judy Hopps, Nick Wilde, and other characters traveling along. I'm assuming what is their city called? Is it called? I can't remember what it's municipal something. Blanking.
Zootopia, right?
Yeah, I guess it would be Zootopia, but it's like something municipal. I don't remember. But Tropical America's expansion in Animal Kingdom is greenlit and ready to start construction. There's been permits filed for trailers, so that's going to start soon. And we'll get more into that one because there's a lot of things to discuss. But at Destination, like Jordan was saying, Destination D23, they did announce that Indiana Jones and Encanto were going to have a footprint there, and they were going to start to build themed attractions or themed areas around those two franchises, or I guess one's a franchise, one's more of an entity at this point. But Tropical Americas is happening. Sounds like that's going to get rid of all things Dino Land, which Jordan, I know, will have some thoughts on. Jordan's former home. He and I have both worked in the same parks. That is going to go away. But yeah, Jordan, just kind of like overall thoughts, right? Just initial thoughts as far as Animal Kingdom. Are you excited about the changes that are coming?
No.
And we'll get more into it, but I just wanted to get your, like, does it hurt? Does it hurt as much as other people have made it out to be online? It seems like a lot of people are attracted or at least drawn to this area.
It does hurt. It does. Look, I'll say this. It is, I guess, better that they are that they pivoted from the one from 2 years ago. The plan from 2 years ago being Moana and Coco with no Encanto. And it was just going to be kind of like this weird split, I guess. Yeah. Moana doesn't fit in this park. I think we stretched it enough with Avatar. I don't think we need to keep stretching what Animal Kingdom should stand for. Because at a certain point, you're going to get to, like, look, they tried to make it work with Avatar, like, oh, conservation, and it's, whatever. I think at a certain point in Moana, you're looking at it and saying, well, humans are actually part of the animal kingdom, aren't they? And you're like, so at that point, anybody can fit in here, right? Like, you're at that point, you're like, oh yeah, I guess. Or Moana had a pig and a chicken in it. Yeah, let's throw it in here. Like, that's not what it should be. Making it Tropical Americas, where it's going to have a more common theme and you can fit certain things in this, I think works better for this area. That was kind of my main worry. Is we've had, like, Africa, we have Asia, we have like all these like really great lands, and then if it was just like Moana land, or like what were they going to call it, and now Tropical Americas at least has a common theme, and you can throw in stuff like Coco, Encanto, and Indiana Jones.
Right.
My main issue with the Indiana Jones part is, while that's cool, there's an Indiana Jones ride in Disneyland, and it has the same track as Dinosaur. So my main worry is that they're just going to do the same thing as that and keep certain parks things exclusive. I don't understand why we always want to try, why lately they've been doing this, where it's like, if it's over there, it's over here. What's my reason to go to California if everything in California is over here?
Yep.
Right now, the answer is Avengers Campus, because it can't be over in the East Coast. But let me tell you, if that deal with Universal wasn't a thing, they would have put Avengers Campus over here too.
Yep.
So I'm supposed to go to California hopefully next year, and I'll be able to see Avengers Campus. And that's a big selling point for me. When I go to Galaxy's Edge, it's the same exact Galaxy's Edge. I think that was a missed opportunity. I think they could have done like a I know this is not what you asked. I'm going off on this tangent.
No, it's fine. No.
What I would have done maybe is do a Galaxy's Edge on the West Coast that is featured around the original trilogy and then the sequel trilogy in the East Coast.
That's a good idea.
That way, then you have to go to both places. Same thing when they do this Avatar land that they're doing over there. It better be a different ride, and it looks like it will be. Good, because I don't want the same ride over there because it's like if you have an Avatar hardcore fan, which I don't know many, but right, those movies have made billions of dollars. But they come out and they're like, "Oh, I've been to Pandora in Disney World." And then they're like, "Oh, but there's a new attraction in California." They're going to go to California and ride that attraction. And it's a draw. Same thing if you had a different Star Wars attraction over there. Your Star Wars fans would be like hopping around. Star Wars fans probably go to Disneyland just to get a different type of blue milk. If they, Star Wars fans are hardcore. So yeah, I just feel like you can do more stuff like that, but it seems like lately it's just like, oh, we have it here, and part of that is because it's easier to produce, it's cheaper to produce, because once you perfect the technology, cloning it is easy, so they just be able to port it over and save money.
No, it's a really good point, and I know we'll get into more of that too, just discussion about different things that they've done where they seem to be wanting to duplicate things. Jumping over to Epcot, we won't spend too much time with Epcot because I'm not sure Epcot's going to get a whole ton, but Test Track 3 is coming. Magic Kingdom, DVC Lounge to take place at the Shootin' Arcade, and then the Pirates themed tavern was announced at Destination D23 last year, where it's going to take over the Pirates League, which is in the Pirates merchandise shop. It's going to be a tavern that is inspired by the Magic Kingdom ride, an immersive dining experience centered around the high seas. I don't think that place is going to be very big, though, because Pirates League is not a very big location or area. So I'm interested to see what that means. Over on the resort side, there's not really much going on. Polynesian Tower, the Island Tower at the Polynesian Resort. Jordan, it is taking shape. It looks good. People will rip it to shreds because they always rip the towers to shreds. But then at the end of the day, when you visit one of the towers like Grand Destino, or what's the other one called? The Grand Destino you got. Oh man, why am I blanking all of a sudden? Grand Destino. I'll come back to it. I'll remember it eventually. They have the contemporary one, but Bay Lake, but I forget the other tower's name.
You're talking about Riviera?
Yes, I think. No, Grand Destino, and there's another one. Why am I'm blanking on it all of a sudden? This is awful. I can't remember it. Anyway, Jordan, they got rid of the Aloha show to that. Basically, this took the place of it. The dinner show. The Polynesian Villa and Bungalows will open on December 17th, 2024 was when that was announced. And we'll talk a little bit about resorts just a tad, because I've got some thoughts on that one. But we'll get into the real meat and potatoes, as Jordan would say. I think you're the one that says that. Meat and potatoes of the show. We're going to start, Jordan, with the speculations and what we see and predictions in this segment. And we're going to start with the movies and entertainment side of things. And we kind of alluded to this. And I was looking at the D23 schedule. There's not really a Marvel section per se this year.
No, I think it's just all in that one showcase.
Yep, me too. So I think the 7:00 entertainment showcase is going to be where also Marvel lives. And with all the announcements we've got, Jordan, I'm sure they're going to rehash it. But I guess just kind of launching in, what are you looking forward to in this panel? Again, this is 7:00 on Friday night. My cat's so excited about this. But what are your thoughts? What are some things you're looking forward to? Throw some of the stuff out there on your list that you got to see from this entertainment panel.
So I don't have too much here that I need to see on the Marvel side of it. Here's what I would expect. And they've sometimes done this, and they've sometimes done. I think I'm kind of going in with low expectations. Okay. Because I remember there was a year where they did D23 and Comic-Con, and they did big announcements for both. But I thought after Comic-Con that was it. Like, oh, those are all the big announcements. But I remember, like, I think it was when they first announced Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, they went to D23 and announced something pretty big as well. I forget what it was. In my opinion, though, I'm kind of going in with, I think Charlie Cox said he's already going to be there. at D23. He plays Daredevil. Daredevil Born Again is going to be airing on Disney Plus next year. So I'm assuming we're going to get like a trailer for Daredevil, and you'll probably focus more on the Disney Plus stuff that they didn't touch at all on Comic-Con. Comic-Con, they shared the big, here's our 3 movies that are coming out next year, and here's a big announcement with Doomsday and Secret Wars and Robert Downey Jr. I don't think we're going to quite get that type of stuff at D23, especially because it is just not a Marvel panel. It's going to probably go, I think sometimes Marvel closes these out as well, or sometimes they're in the middle. I remember D23 a couple years ago, they announced like Miss Marvel, Moon Knight, She-Hulk. That's when they announced all of those shows. So you could get stuff like that. But remember, Bob Iger wanted to slow all of that stuff down. So I think you're going to instead really focus on what is to come. So you're going to get maybe a little something about Agatha. You're probably going to get something about Daredevil. And you're probably going to get maybe something about What If Season 3, because that's going to be the final season of that show. Like, it's going to be those little things, I think, is going to be the main traction we're getting with Marvel this year. And I'll be covering it over on To the Infinity Saga and beyond when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was going to lean into you heavily on the Marvel thing. I know some people wrote some things about possibly some Thunderbolt stuff, maybe more information, but they also talked a lot of Thunderbolts at Comic-Con.
Yeah,
so I was
about
also
10, 15
wondering,
minutes of
right,
Thunderbolts at Comic-Con.
Yeah, and I know that there's not a whole lot of overlap sometimes between Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con, and like it really does feel like the real fans, the legitimate fans, whereas like myself, the casual, more of the Marvel casual, that's not allowed on the podcast with Jordan. I would say,
yeah, I kicked him to the curb.
Yeah, he kicked me off. No, but yeah, I was going to lean more into Marvel with you, but like I was saying, I think there's just so much that Marvel doesn't want to release now. I think they're going to be a little bit more hesitant just because, I mean, we're in this new era.
And if I can speak to that too, real quick,
yeah.
Logan, for the casuals that don't know this stuff, if you're just listening to Logan and you're like, oh, Deadpool
he doesn't know anything,
fun, but I don't know anything else about this. Like, they have filmed a few shows that are being held back. So, like I said, Daredevil is coming out next year. Who else am I thinking of here? I just blanked. We're blanking on everything right now. Ironheart.
Yeah.
She was in Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. She has her own show. That's been filmed for a while. It was supposed to originally come out, I think, last year.
Really?
But now that they want to spread this stuff out, it's getting pushed to 2025. So that was filmed, I think, in 2022 for a late 2023 or this year release. It's now pushed to 2025 because they're only trying to do a certain amount of shows a year. They don't want to overstay their welcome. Wonder Man has already been filming and is, I think, done filming as well. And that's another Marvel show that's in the can. That's going to be in 2025, most likely. So you're looking at your 3 shows. If you're doing 3 shows next year, it's going to be Wonder Man. It's going to be Daredevil, and it's going to be Ironheart. And that's why I don't expect a new show to be announced, because by the time it airs, it's going to be like 3 years from now because of how much they're backed up, and they don't want to start going above 2 to 3 shows a year. You're also going to get some animated stuff. You probably might get something about Spider-Man. What is that show called now? It was called Freshman Year originally, but it's a new animated series.
Oh,
Spider-Man
yeah,
takes place in a different universe. That is going to probably get some sort of announcement because I think that's airing early next year or late this year.
Yeah, no, I saw it when I was looking for. I was actually writing down some of the ones because I hadn't seen it. I forget what it's called now. But yeah, no, I think you're right, Jordan. I think we get some. I think we get and even with, I would even say with, I mean, Star Wars, I think is going to get a little bit more, and we'll talk about that soon. But we'll probably move to that next. But Marvel, I feel like you said, I feel like they've dropped enough to have the fans excited. I wouldn't be shocked if we got some, some rehashing or some a visit back to Avengers and what's that look like, right? I wouldn't be shocked if there was a special guest that came out. And I'm not saying Robert Downey. Like, I would not be shocked if it was one of the other Avengers. Maybe it's Ruffalo, whoever it might be, that comes out and talks a little bit about the excitement. I would love to see what's the actor's name, that Mackie, Anthony Mackie, right?
Yeah.
I think that would make sense if they brought him out to discuss some of this stuff, because he's going to be part of it and have a heavy role.
So I looked it up real quick. Your Friendly
Yep.
Neighborhood Spider-Man is
That's
what they
right.
changed the name to, and
Yep.
it's premiering November 2nd of this
That's
year. So
right.
you're going to get probably a little trailer or something. I would think they're going to try to
That'll
hype
be
up the stuff
exciting.
that's coming this year. Because I don't know if you know this, Logan, but post-COVID, I think everything's changed in the sense of marketing. I know there was a lot of people upset we did not get any Superman stuff. I know it's not Disney, but any Superman stuff at Comic-Con. Comes out in a year, right? But if you look at when most trailers are starting to come out now, trailers are coming out 6 months or less ahead of the movie, right? And since COVID, it's been a more truncated marketing time because they don't want to get the hype started too early that you forget about the movie. So what they end up doing instead is pushing it all in like the last 6 months leading up to the movie. So that's why I think Disney as a whole also has started taking this approach of let's promote the stuff that comes out this year and maybe early next year and get people hyped about that, and they can learn about the other stuff later.
Yeah, no, Jordan, I think you're right. I think it is interesting. I think getting something for Spider-Man, and like you said, with Feige, they've taken a different approach with Marvel, and I think that in the end, it ends up being better for Marvel. I think we got too far ahead of ourselves, and there's actually some things with the Disney side that we'll actually talk about that they've done this as well. So don't let me forget. Let's move on to Star Wars, and I'm going to lean heavily into you on this one too, just because you're going to be much more rehearsed in what's coming for Marvel, or sorry, for Star Wars. So if you kind of dive in, what are you looking forward to as far as Star Wars? I think we're going to get a little bit more here than maybe what we get with Marvel.
That's funny because I'm the exact opposite. I think we're going to get less Star Wars stuff than we're going to get Marvel stuff.
Really?
Star Wars, I'm just not expecting much because Celebration is April of next year, I believe.
Okay.
So that's when they save most of their big announcements. So what I would instead focus on here, they just revealed today, December 3rd is when Skeleton Crew is going to premiere on Disney Plus. So I'd assume maybe you get a trailer of that. Maybe just kind of a focus. Maybe Jude Law's there talking about it, or Dave Filoni's talking about it. John Watts is talking about it. Maybe somebody's talking about it. Maybe an official title card for Mandalorian and Grogu, and just kind of talking about how that is officially started filming or is going to start filming. I think you're going to get, because that starts filming, I believe, next month or around that time.
I know Pedro had been talking about it, that it was soon.
Yeah, and he may have already filmed some of his, if he had anything off of the helmet, because he's actually filming Fantastic Four as of yesterday.
That's
so cool. He's going to be kind of wrapped up with that. And we know now that most of the time when when the helmet's on, it's like 3 stunt actors. So Pedro's mostly just been voicing him recently, unless his mask is off. He's a busy guy. He also filmed Last of Us Season 2 this year, Gladiator 2.
Yeah, geez.
He's been doing everything. So I would expect those type of things. Maybe something along the line of the Rey movie.
I was going to ask you about that.
I think, again, they would save that for Celebration because that doesn't have to start filming yet. They can really get started on filming that next year. I know people are always in panic mode with this, where they're like, there's still not a script for the Rey movie. That comes out December of 2026, Logan.
That's wild.
Like I said, Fantastic Four started filming this week. It's coming out in a year.
Yeah.
So, and Rise of Skywalker was still filming stuff early 2019 and came out in December of 2019. Mm-hmm. These turnaround times can be met. So get the script right for the Rey movie. It doesn't have to start filming until maybe next summer or next fall. And it'll still hit that December 2026 date. So I'm actually not too concerned about the Rey movie. I think they're going to do it because that would be the hardest one to swallow for getting rid of it, because it is tied to their sequel trilogy. And I don't think they're going to want to eat that. So I think they'll be more positive and be like, Mandalorian Grogu is filming. Here's the title card. Maybe concept art. Skeleton Crew is coming out. Maybe they'll talk about an animated show for Star Wars, but again, I think they would save that to Celebration. So that's my thought process on Star Wars.
Yeah. No, I think you make good points. Those are all really good points. You were going to hit on all the ones that I thought. So I was like, maybe there will be more of that than there will be Marvel, because Marvel had their time to shine at San Diego. That's where more of my thinking was, that Star Wars does seem to have a lot in the pipe coming up, but it's further out. And Star Wars has always done a really nice job, it felt, spacing them out. Whereas I think Marvel sometimes get too congested and collide with each other. Because I mean, Star Wars isn't really releasing new movies; they're releasing TV shows. So that's where I think you've got the advantage. But yeah,
maybe hold on. Sorry, maybe I was just thinking if the Acolyte has done well, it's kind of conflicting on numbers and stuff. Maybe a second season renewal at D23. Okay. I don't think they would wait that long for Celebration to say season 2 is happening. So maybe D23 is a spot.
That's a good point.
To do it. If you look at Ahsoka last year, it ran till October, and I think in December or January they announced season 2. Acolyte wrapped up in July, maybe by August or September. You know, that would be a really early renewal compared to other stuff. But again, they might want to have something, and that might be what they do.
Yeah. No, that's a pretty good point. Just kind of moving on to Disney and Pixar. So looking at the things coming out, Jordan, I wrote down here, I want to see more original movies, and I know you and I are in agreement on this one quite a bit, where we just need to see more. They're great storytellers over there. I just don't like, Pixar does new quite a bit, and they've gone back to do some of the ones that have been successful, but it seems like we're starting to get into this, like, let's do Moana live action. Let's do Moana 2. And I get it. Moana's huge and it's going to do great. It's going to make billions of dollars. Disney's going to have their $4th billion box office because they're bringing back 2 storylines that we already have, or like already have the character. And these 2 are just going to make money. And by that, I mean Moana 2 and Mufasa. I think they're both billion-dollar movies, because Lion King live action hit the billion-dollar mark. I think Mufasa is going to be a better story that we just don't know. But again, I want Disney to start announcing more original. And we did get an announcement of an original movie that is slated for summer of 2025. It was supposed to come out in the spring of 2024. And Jordan, this is where I think we can kind of combine this with Snow White. Snow White is also getting a live action that's supposed to come out soon too, but they actually pushed her back because they did some reshoots. And I know you and I you actually talked about reshoots in your last podcast, or I think with your Marvel podcast I was listening to, where you said reshoots are not always bad. And Disney, I think, did well with this one, because there was a reaction to some of the photos that were shared online that weren't good and weren't positive. So Disney went back to the drawing board a little bit and went, I think we can make this even better, and then pushed her back along with Elio. Elio is the news story that we're getting from Disney. And it is from the director who directed Pixar and Coco and The Good Dinosaur. Worked with Pixar on Coco and The New Dinosaur. That's Adrian Molina. The premise of Elio, he finds himself in space among aliens and cosmic beings, all of whom find their human form. There was like a teaser that was released at Destination D23 last year on Elio, I believe it was. But it looks really good, and it looks like those stories, kind of like Onward. I think Onward got hung up in the COVID times. Onward was a really good story, but it just got lost because of COVID.
Fun fact, that was the last movie I saw before theater shut down. Onward.
No way.
Yeah.
It was such a good story, but I think COVID really just clouded it. Like it didn't perform well, obviously, because it was not in theaters very long. But it was a great one. But Jordan, I ask you, what do you want to see when it comes to Disney anime? I know Disney's harder to pinpoint in Pixar because you just don't know where they're thinking, but anything you're excited about coming down the pipeline that you're like, oh, I need to go see that?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I'm not really interested in much of the live action anymore. The first set, when it's like, oh, Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin, and it was kind of like new.
Yeah,
I went and saw. I think I only saw Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast in theaters. And then I think I saw Lion King. Did I even watch Lion King yet?
Did you do Jungle Book either?
Not in theaters.
Okay.
I don't think I've watched it at all, actually.
I don't like the cartoon version. I know
Oh, Jungle
people.
Book.
Yeah, I like the live action a lot better.
I may have watched it. I think I may have watched it because that's a Jon Favreau one.
It was good.
So those are first ones. I kind of watched more than like I've not seen Little Mermaid. I have not seen Cruella. I've not seen any of those because they just don't really like push the needle. Move the needle for me because I've got a lot of stuff I'm doing. There's other stuff to watch. Do I want to rewatch a new telling of something, but just in live action? No, I'm also not somebody that is against like the Lion King one. You know how like people were very like, oh, it took all the character out of it. I'm like, yeah, because it's supposed to look like a real lion. I'm sorry, like I don't care. Like it was supposed to look realistic. Oh well. I did see that one in theaters, Lion King. I remember now. So my main ones, I think what they would mostly focus on here is probably Elio, right? And I think you would probably focus on Zootopia 2. Which, by the way, is coming out 9 years after the first Zootopia. That should have been fast-tracked. Zootopia made $1 billion. I'm actually a little bit more hesitant on Mufasa making $1 billion. Because one thing it has going for it's December. So it gets the holiday money. It's going to get the family money. There's less movies then. So actually it has longer legs in cinemas. But I would say just because Lion King made $1 billion, I don't think this one is guaranteed. We've seen the box office be very weird lately.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm thinking of is when I look at that, I worry because Lion King has kind of been made of a joke with the live action thing where people are very anti live action Lion King. And I also worry the fact that it's not the Lion King. It's a prequel. People showed up to the Lion King because that is beloved. Not so much sure Mufasa is beloved. We'll see. Maybe I'm doubting it and it'll come out and make $3 billion and I'll have to eat my words. But I also think, am I wrong, Logan? Doesn't Mufasa say that his father had told him the same thing about all of the land is theirs?
He does. Yep, he does.
Because this movie is supposed to be that he's a nobody that comes up and rises as the king. So I'm kind of confused about what that is and how that meshes.
That's a good point. No, I hadn't thought about it. Yeah, but he does say that. He said the line or the kings before you have said. So maybe maybe they somehow can tell that story where maybe it wasn't his father. But I think the line is like the kings before you have said, which makes you think, okay, well, it's obviously your dad, and that's the way it goes for Lion King 2 and 1.5 or whatever they did after that.
1.5, yeah, and Lion King 2, yeah,
right.
Lion King 2 has one of the best songs in all of Lion King, by the way. He Lives in You.
Yes. Great song. I love that song. When he's running through
the
yep. Or when is it Kiara running through the
Yes, it's her.
Kiara. Yeah. Honestly, I would have been okay getting more of like a further down the line Lion King story. You know what I mean? Like remove some of these characters and give us a new, in a different timeline kind of thing with Lion King, right? So yeah, no, I think you're right. It'll be interesting to see Mufasa. I think personally, yes, because I think more people are actually weirdly drawn to Mufasa because of his death, which sounds awful. But I feel like when you mention Lion King, that's the first thing people think of and relate to is Mufasa. And I'm excited. I'm a huge Lion King fan. I've got Lion King pins out the ears. It's my favorite
You worked
movie.
there, yeah.
Yeah, I worked there. It just worked out for me. I just can't wait to be king. But Snow White, Jordan, I think will do well. I don't know if it's going to be a huge hit because those live action princess movies really do strike a nerve with a lot of people. I will say this is just based on some fact. She's one of the least popular, I think, as far as her movie is concerned. Her and I think Sleeping Beauty are actually the least popular, but Sleeping Beauty only has like 6 lines. So, but yeah, I think Snow White, you're not gonna upset as many people with it. I think now that they've gone back and done some editing. But anything else as far as entertainment that you've got that you wanted to throw out there?
No, not really. I think like we said, we'd love to see them take more risks with originals, but the issue is a lot of their original stuff has been bombing. So they're going to instead lean in on those other franchises. I'm surprised we haven't gotten Encanto 2 news. You know what I'm saying? Like, that could be something that gets dropped maybe because they're like, oh, we have to go back to the well because we need a for sure hit. We'll pay Lin-Manuel Miranda $1 billion to write us new songs that are catchy, like We Don't Talk About Bruno. And we're going to, make an Encanto 2.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I wouldn't be shocked if we got like an announcement of a Haunted Mansion 2 or like a, one of those offshoot ones that was like, it was good, but it was like, okay, I didn't expect that. I think there's going to be one of those, right? There always is like, oh, I didn't expect that to come down the pipeline, or like a Brave 2. I know they've always talked about expanding her story in Merida. But there's a bunch of them out there like that. So we won't spend too much more time on this. We're going to move on to Disneyland and California Adventure. Not much to discuss here. We're not as familiar with it anyway, so it's kind of harder to speak about this one. But Jordan, like Jordan said, there is an Avatar-based area coming to Disneyland Resort. Not much has been released, but they did confirm it through Josh D'Amaro, basically going, "Oh yeah, there's going to be an Avatar, but we just don't really know what that looks like." There is going to be a different ride. It's going to be more, I think, water themed. From what it looks like, it looks a lot different than Pandora here in Animal Kingdom. So I think that's good that they're getting a lot of variants there. Jordan, the biggest one that I want to talk to you about is forever. It sounds like there's always speculation, and it sounds like there's some rumblings and maybe even some slight confirmation from Kevin Feige that is there is going to be a third Avengers Campus attraction added. Avengers headquarters could get that Avengers Campus ride that they've been talking about. Like, what is your what would you want to see in an Avengers ride? Because I feel like this ride, if they built it, would be the most popular ride in all the parks, because I feel like it would be the one that people would just kind of that has to be the ride they go and ride.
Yeah, I'm looking to see if I still have the picture of what it actually is. They released something, I think it was last year, where it's like a Emperor Thanos. And it's like going through different like multiverses and stuff like that. So I think it would probably I think hopefully they'll show us a little bit more of that this time finally. Because I remember it was announced, the first thing was announced. It was supposed to be going to Wakanda to fight in the battle of the Endgame battle and Infinity War battle. But then COVID happened, right? So I think then they reworked it to then be like, how can we make it and still have Thanos in it, but maybe get some more popular stuff? And they end up going multiverse with it and end up, doing that. Here it is. Am I allowed to put this photo on here for you?
Yep.
It's loading. Okay. This is it. This is what you see, like multiple versions of Spider-Man, multiple versions of they have Captain Carter, different Hulks. Werewolf by Night even appears on this screen here. So it looks like it's going to be something like this. And that's Spider-Man too, the animated one. That's Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. That's coming out. So it seems like it'd be this with it looks like a car that fits 12 people, like 444. Yeah. And I guess taking on this big God Emperor Thanos that you take on. So I think that can be fun, whipping around the different universes. That sounds to me like screens. I would like to hope that there's actually a little bit of a physical component with the screens, like Forbidden Journey, right? Where you have the screens, but you also have the Forbidden Forest and the spiders and the Dementors. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, I think if honestly, and I don't know if you've ridden this actually. I've only ridden it once. Mickey's Runaway Railway.
I've rode it tons of times. Yeah.
Okay, good. So you know what I'm talking about. Like, I feel like it is the attraction that, like, you'd get more thrill on Avengers probably, but something like that, like, it's a trackless vehicle. It has the moments where it moves through the scenes, or like, I would love it too, Jordan, though, if it was some screens and they could change the characters as time goes on, kind of like Star Tours does, right? Where they can you can throw in other Avengers because we're constantly adding to this universe was kind of my thoughts. But yeah, Avengers Campus, it needs some more attractions. I know that was a big complaint, just like in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. That's a huge complaint that this phase one, okay, what about phase two? You pitched these as like these were the first phases for each of these lands, but we haven't gotten anything for Galaxy's Edge. Like we've not gotten anything except the Bounty Hunter game. So or Star Cruiser, but we'll get into that. But yeah, Jordan, Disneyland also is getting some approvals in Anaheim. The city council is approving. There's different areas that they're going to be able to use, and I'm going to see if I can share my screen real quick because I can kind of show you a map for those that are visual learners first. So if you look at this, it's on a Google Doc, but they've got some new territory. So you got Disneyland and Disney California Adventure here and then here. So there's one right across the street from Catella. So it's kind of catty corner from Disney's California Adventure. And then on the left-hand side, kind of next to where downtown Disney and the parking garages are, they have room to expand there as well. Jordan, this is a game changer for Disneyland because they've been landlocked for quite some time and there was just not anywhere that they could go except for up or like taking out things. Now, there's been some art shared and you can actually go see this. It's I think it's called disneylandforward.com. It's run by Disney. And there were 10 potential projects that they pitched, kind of like this blue sky thing. It's Avatar, Frozen, Tangled, Peter Pan, Zootopia, Toy Story, Black Panther, Coco, Encanto, and Tron. They've used all the pictures from different places around the world where they have these current lands to kind of show you what they could look like. But what are your thoughts as far as Disneyland getting what sounds like a park or park and a half? Because, I mean, that's essentially what I think these pieces will be if they can add some of these lands.
Yeah, I don't know if they're big enough to be considered a park. I wonder
Yeah.
if it's going to be like this is part of California Adventure, and maybe you
Yeah,
have to
that
take
makes
like a
sense.
shuttle or a
Yeah.
walkway to it. We actually talked about it over on our podcast a few months ago when it first got approved, and we saw those pictures. I'm looking to see if I still have them. I don't think I do, but because like you said, it does show like it looks like a Neverland-esque type of thing, right?
Right.
Of course, that's just concept art. Doesn't mean that's what they would do. They can switch it up and all that. But just really interested to see how they're going to fit that in there. I've walked around there. You know, I walked outside and I've walked like along that Disney Drive where they're talking about. And before I proposed to my wife there the night before, that's where we were walking. And she's like bugging me, like, when am I going to propose? And we walked over to like a Walgreens, which I think would have been like across the street from that other part that you were talking about.
It was right. Yep, that's exactly right.
So that's pretty interesting trying to picture it in my head on like that was a very quiet walk. That's going to be a lot more lively if they do that. So I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see how that will work out. How will you work out entering the park? How will you work out? I don't know. Like the one across from Disney Drive seems the easiest. It's just like, all right, because that's near like Paradise Pier, I think, right? Or that old hotel, Pixar Pier. You can maybe have a new entrance for some of those people or going in different ways. But when you're talking about the other one on the other, like that you said is catty corner there, I don't know how you do that unless if you get like a shuttle or some sort of like, I wouldn't say monorail, but some other sort of thing
like a
that
train
can drop
kind of
you
thing.
in there. Yeah.
Or even like a Skyliner kind of thing that they've got going.
Because could you imagine like having to like take a crosswalk and you're crosswalking and then you go through another turnstile for a small part of the park?
No, especially in that area. Because like you said, I know that area. I can picture it. There's just so many.
It's busy.
Yeah, it's big intersections, like huge intersections. And then there's Disneyland. And if you've not been to Disneyland, you've been to Disney World, it would blow your mind that these parks exist where they do. Like,
Yeah.
you walk up on Disneyland and you're like walking along a fence and all of a sudden Pixar Pier is like there. All of a sudden it's like, boom. It's like, what the heck? Where'd that come from? But they do so well with trees and fences to make it look, like it doesn't exist there. So yeah, I'm interested with Disneyland. Again, it's 1.9 billion. Jordan, Disney experiences, parks and experiences, meaning like all the parks, all the experiences like cruise ships, the the Adventures by Disney. They're getting a $60 billion investment from the company. So there's a huge focus on experiences, and that's what we've really been lacking. So that's where a lot of people are getting excited about this. In Disneyland, it's very hard to change Disneyland. It is the icon. It is the baby. It's the oldest child. Sorry, not the baby, but it was the first baby. It was Walt Disney's. It was his creation. So I think it's harder for them to justify some of the, getting rid of things. Even with Disney World, we're a little bit more, I think, willing and forgiving than if you took out like Pirates at Disneyland, people would never return. Um, so let's move on, Jordan. We're going to move into resorts and cruise lines. We're not going to spend too much time here just because, one, resorts are so hard to predict unless there's things that have already existed out there because they take forever to build. Also, cruise lines, you and I are not the biggest cruisers. So it's really hard for me to speak on behalf of the cruise line. I know people love it, but there's just not a lot there. A lot of speculation. We'll get to that. But Jordan, the one resort note the couple of resort notes I did have, I think the Polynesian is going to get the announcement for a rooftop dining experience, just like the Contemporary, because it's got a good firework view. I think Disney really likes that, and I think people really like that. So I think we get an announcement there. And if you look at the building, it does look like there's some kind of lounge up top or like a restaurant. I wanted to get your thoughts on this one. Jordan, do we get announcements or anything in regards to the Galactic Star Cruiser that sits vacant?
I don't know. I would like to see something done with it. What can you do with it? I mean, because even turning into a normal resort, you have to add all the windows. It doesn't have windows.
Yep.
It could be a jail. I mean, they could make it into like a prison for Reedy Creek or something.
It'd be a nice prison. That would be like a whole. There we go. Jordan has solved
the bunks all, and everything. I mean,
Jordan has solved it all. That's where the bad people go. Yeah, I think you're right. The only thing I can see, seriously, the only thing I can see come of it is a restaurant. It's the only thing I can think of that makes sense. Like a bar and restaurant with a cool interactive game thing that you could play possibly. Like it just doesn't, it doesn't, people go, well, it'll be a deluxe resort. I'm like, could you imagine if that was a deluxe resort paying that much money and not getting any of the perks that the Star Cruiser had? Like it would just feel so they're honestly, I hate to say this, but turn it into a restaurant or tear it down. Like there's nothing, and then expand out that way. But what do I know? And then Reflections Resort, Jordan. So this is the resort that sat back on 7th Sea, right? Is that Bay Lake? Yeah, Bay Lake. It's the resort that was going to sit on Bay Lake. It was called Reflections, I think, called Lakeside. But it was going to sit next to Fort Wilderness and Wilderness Lodge out there. If you go back there on a boat, Jordan, we were back there on a fireworks cruise, and there's still construction and clearing out of spaces. I'm not sure they're done with that. And I did find through some of the articles that I've read that Reflections Resort actually had a delay on the permits, not a cancellation. And most of the time, Disney will go ahead and cancel their permits. They extended it 5 years. I think that's where another deluxe resort's headed. There's no other way that you can convince me otherwise. I think it has to go there. It makes sense. There's room back there. And it's a perfect spot for Magic Kingdom. Gives you another it's going to be a massive resort. So I think that is ultimately what happens with resorts, but I don't think there's anything else unless they're going to announce some kind of renovations of one of them, which I doubt. It's been a long time since Disney's opened a new resort. Any thoughts on the resort side?
No, I don't really expect too many resort things, I guess.
Cruise line, Jordan, more about the Disney Destiny ship. So we're currently getting announcement after announcement this week. We'll continue to get those over the next couple of days. Disney Destiny, I'm not a huge Disney cruise line guy, like I said, but it is going to go out of Port Everglades, which is Fort Lauderdale, not Cape Canaveral. So that's weird. It will also be villain themed. It does have villains. It's got a Meg Bar. It's got a Cruella lounge coming. They've got, what else did they announce? Oh, the water slide's going to have interactive where Mickey's going through and battling Chernabog, which is cool. But yeah, it's a really cool cruise ship. Again, Jordan and I don't really cruise, so yeah, there's that. But Jordan, there were 2 cruise ships in the ocean on the Horizons, which is the Parks and Experiences, which is Saturday. Sorry, I should have announced that before. But Saturday is when they're doing this Parks and Experiences Horizons panel and showcase. And there's 2 cruise ships, so people think, and Disney has always announced cruise ships in pairs because they have a sister ship and they like to announce them together. So there's thoughts that there could be 2 more cruise lines added. And some of them think there's going to be an international one, and then they think there's going to be more of a domestic one that's a huge upgrade and might be an even bigger ship than what they've built previously. So we'll see. A lot of speculation. Nobody knows anything about cruise lines, I don't think. So there's just a whole lot of like, because they really do keep those under wraps really well.
I know how to escape. I know how to escape from a cruise. That's all I know.
Oh, there you go. Jump. No, don't jump. What do you mean? Pirates?
No, I did. When I was a kid, I did a Disney cruise.
Did you really?
Yes. And I was not old enough to be in the teen room. So I was in like the middle grade room, I guess, and I played Who Wants to Be a Millionaire on the computers. And I went and told them I'm going to find my parents. And they said, all right, that sounds good. And then I found my parents, and my parents were like, oh, thank God, like, you're here. They sent us a page. This is back when they had pagers and beepers, by the way. And it said, Jordan Wiegand has escaped. That's what it sent my parents. And they were like, what? Now, they weren't too concerned. They figured I was looking for them, and I was. I found them. But, yeah, it was just funny that that's what they said. I was like, I told them I'm going to find you guys. I did not escape.
Yeah. So, guys, what Jordan is telling you is that at D23 they're going to get up there and announce that they have found Jordan. He was safely returned after 20 some odd
13 years or so.
13 years.
No, not 13 years. That would be it's 21 years. I think.
I was gonna say, dang, Jordan.
It's been a while. Yeah. 21 years, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow, that makes me feel old.
Yeah, you should feel old. You are. So, we're moving on, Jordan, to the Big Four. And by the Big Four, we're probably only going to talk about Big Two, but we're going to talk about Disney World's parks. And we're going to start, Jordan, with Epcot because there's just not a lot to go on, but we can make some predictions if we think there might be some things announced. I've got one bold prediction that I put, and it's not so bold, but it might be. It might be because I'm going to say it replaces something that people are going to come after me for. But we will get, I guess we can talk a little bit about this. Excited about Test Track 3.0? I know you got to ride the original version. I did not. People think it's going to kind of go back to some of its roots. I don't think so. I think Disney's going to take it in a whole different direction. But what are your thoughts, Test Track 3.0?
I thought Disney said it was going to be a mix of 1 and 2.
I think they did.
I think you'll get part of it. It looks like more real. Like it has the picture of like foliage, which is more reminiscent of 1.0, less reminiscent of 2.0, which was all like Tron-esque grid type stuff. That's Jack's favorite version of Test Track, which by the way, I'm glad it's closing, Jack. I'm glad it's closing. Test Track 3.0. Here we go. You know, it's funny. One of my biggest memories of Test Track, this is going to sound dumb, but I used to have this game. Logan. It was on the computer. And this is back when I lived at our first house, like before we moved when I was a teenager. We moved when I was in 3rd grade. So I'm thinking this is like 1st or 2nd grade. And it was actually, when did Test Track open? Like 96, I think. Yes. So it's before then because it was I have to find what this was. I don't remember what it was. It was a Disney game that was based around the parks. And it's like a point and click thing. And it had Epcot and it had like a trailer or something for Test Track. It was like the newest attraction coming in 96. Like it had like a little thing for it. So that's what I remember most about. But this game was really cool. It had like this part where you can even like act like you're a Foley artist, you know, like when there was like this thing you could go into and it'd show clips of Robin Hood and you had to act like you're doing the sound effects, or play Steamboat Willie and you had to act like you're doing the sound effects by clicking the right object at the right time. But yeah, whatever reason, it was like this thing I think that came with a preview of Test Track. I don't know why, but I remember seeing that and be like, man, I can't wait to ride Test Track. And then I did. And Test Track 1.0 was great. It had a great pre-show with John Michael Higgins. And it had like the bricks that you bump over. It was just a much better attraction than Test Track 2.0. So I'm hoping this 3.0 does go a little bit more into that old style and has a good hybrid of it, just like how a good car should be a hybrid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's I that's funny. I was just thinking because Disney is releasing a video game this year. It's a remastered version of a game that already existed. You probably played this, Epic Mickey. Yeah. So that is also
Oswald, baby.
Yeah. So that is actually getting a remaster for PS5. Jordan, I'm going to buy it.
It's on all of them. Switch, PS5. Yeah.
I have to get that. That looks fun. So, yeah, Jordan, I think Test Track, we get some more concept art, because it's been some time since what they've released. So I think we'll get a little bit more updates on Test Track. Not much, but I think Epcot's really not going to get a lot of attention. If it did, Jordan, one of my bold predictions I put on here, I think we get an Inside Out attraction, and I think this is one of the parks it fits in. However, that being said, people will go, what are they going to replace? And I still, to this day, think they're going to replace Figment. I don't know why. I feel like there's some people out there in the Twitter sphere that are like, they're going to replace something over there. It's the only one that makes sense unless they go into that pavilion that still sits idle, because it's that big gold dome pavilion that just sits back there and there's nothing currently in that space and they don't use it, where all the festival center used to be. But yeah, Jordan, I think we get an Inside Out attraction, and I think Epcot makes sense. Obviously, I think Magic Kingdom could get it too, but that's my bold prediction. And then I also said, I think maybe we get to, if you want a fan pleaser, Jordan, you put Dreamfinder with Figment, and that would make a lot of people happy. So those are my two predictions and kind of what I want to see with Epcot going forward.
If they get rid of Figment, we riot.
Yeah.
It's strange. When I went there,
Strange is Marvel. Oh, you mean, okay, yep, go ahead.
I think I talked about it on my podcast. When I went there, I went over to Epcot one day, and we were trying to go. I wanted to go see Figment, not the ride, the character. He's meeting now.
Yep.
He was already done for the day.
Yeah, he ends.
It was 3:00.
Yes, he ends at 3.
What the hell?
Yep. I actually looked that up today because I was like, does Dreamfinder ever meet with him? And it's no, he does not. But yeah.
No. Yeah. So the number one thing they could do to get fans back on their side is put Figment in the attraction and put Dreamfinder in the attraction.
Yeah.
And then actually have Figment out most of the day, not this 11 to 3 bullcrap.
Right.
That
put him in Communicore. Why not?
Yeah, nothing else is in there, right? So you do that. My wish would be that would be like my outlandish one, is like bring back the original Dreamfinder Figment attractions and do that. I don't know if they're gonna do Inside Out there. I think you can do it in another spot, like
Tomorrowland.
No, like I was thinking like what used to be the Play Pavilion. So what was going to be the Play Pavilion.
Yep.
So one of my wish list things that maybe is realistic is I said a new attraction, but I also said or an update on what happened to the Play Pavilion. Maybe they're going to restructure it and do something new with it. That's something I could see happening.
Maybe just put some tables and chairs in there.
My outlandish one is a new World Showcase country. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's on my list.
The last thing we had heard, they were going to announce it in 2019, and it got cut at the last minute, which is fine, actually, because it would have got cut due to COVID anyway. So I think that would have been a real bummer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Open up Brazil, all that space. And then they're like, no, never mind. Yep. Also, I want to share this, not to hijack your show here.
No. Yeah, go ahead.
I did find the Disney game that I was talking about.
Oh, did you?
Yes. So I want to bring it up because it is I want to see if anybody else has seen it. So if you're listening to Logan's show here and you're like, oh, I know that game he's talking about, it's called the Walt Disney World Explorer.
Never heard of that.
This cover This is what it
That's
looked
lovely.
like. It looked like this. And you would
What?
click, yeah, you would click stuff, and it would take you to like different
Oh, the
things in
Earful
the map.
Tower.
It would take you to
No
different things in the
way.
map, and you would have like different things to do. But yeah, but I remember this cover like so vividly.
You know what? It actually looks good. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it looks like legit. It looks like the Disney parks.
Look up videos of this, and you'll
Yeah,
find like all these mini games that were really fun.
I love that. That's so cool. Do that, Disney. There you go. Hire
Yeah,
Jordan.
where is that?
Where's
Come on,
where is the I want to
bring
experience.
Eisner back.
Yeah, no. I want to experience Disney video game of like give me a video game where people feel like they're going to the parks, right? Like
Oh,
give me
did you
some
ever
Disney
play?
Tycoon.
Did you ever play VMK?
No, I did not.
Virtual
No.
Magic Kingdom. That was a
Mm-mm.
hot ticket back then, and it was like a massive multiplayer online game
Yeah.
that was based around Disney, Magic
Oh,
Kingdom and Disney World. And I played it. My friend Dave played it, and when I did a tour of Magic Kingdom, they actually gave that was back at the height. They would give you codes for furniture items that you would be able to redeem in the thing that were exclusive.
yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Sign me up. We got to find these games and I got to play them. I'm sure we can find them online somewhere. I'm going to throw a curveball at you, Jordan. Disney Spring. No, I'm kidding. No, Disney Springs. One thing I will say, if we ever get an announcement what goes in the NBA experience, I'll be shocked. That seems to be the only thing that everybody ever wants to talk about is
whatever will be there will last 6 months, so don't worry.
What if they put back Disney Quest? People love Disney Quest. I don't know what it is, but they loved it.
Was great.
Yeah, I never went, but
Missing
out. Sad I didn't. Moving on, Jordan. Unless you got anything else for Epcot,
No.
I think Epcot's going to be left alone. They're done. Their president came out. Their vice president came out and said that that version of Epcot's done. But we might get some other stage shows announced or something like that.
Maybe a Spaceship Earth. Right, that was supposed to get an update.
That. Yes,
that was supposed to get an update, and it keeps getting canceled and pushed back. So maybe that, but
thank you.
Yeah, I don't expect much.
Yep, I would have forgotten that. That's been a long rumor, Jordan. I think that was a rumor back when we were on program, or like right after.
Well, they've been working on it that long.
Yeah,
they have. I mean, they keep trying to.
Yeah.
Get it where I think back then, like the issue was Siemens not giving them the
this is a family show.
The sponsor, not giving them the right amount of money. So then they removed being sponsored by Siemens, and they were going to do something else, and then COVID happened because I think it was announced for 2019, and I think that's getting pushed and pushed and pushed.
Yeah, be interesting, but we got so much new at Epcot. I think that's the park they leave alone. Maybe a few announcements with Test Track sprinkled in with maybe something that gives some fan service. That's the other thing, Jordan, I think we can talk about here. I do think that starting now, especially because we're getting the studios, and I think that's where we start to see some of this stuff. I do think we're going to start to see, and not that Disney needs to really do this, but I think they realize, and I think I want to base all this. You know what, Jordan? This episode is Deadpool and Wolverine. And what I mean by that is I feel like Disney, we now know how much they listen. Like, I feel like this D23 people and fans are going to know Disney is listening to what we're saying. They are listening to the complaints. They're listening to the Universal stuff down the road. They're listening to some of the stuff. And as we launch into the next couple of parks, Jordan, I want people to know that because I feel like there's some things we'll talk about that I feel like really would satisfy the Disney fan. And I think Disney's actually listening to these things. Let's get into Disney's Hollywood Studios. Jordan, there's not really anything that comes to mind right away, but I think there's a lot of things they could do. And with studios, I think they're up next. So I think they'll get done with Magic and Animal. Those are the two right up next because they've already said that that's what's going to happen. But studios will get some love again. And I think it will be after those two. So Jordan, what do you have for Disney's Hollywood Studios?
That's how it usually happens, right? It's cyclical.
Yeah.
Like we just had the Star Wars and Toy Story updates to it, and then they went on to Epcot to do some Epcot stuff. Then they're going to go back to Magic and Animal Kingdom. Then they're going to go back to Hollywood, and that's how they have to keep doing it. Hollywood, I said I want something for Animation Courtyard. Launch Bay, as much as I like it, cannot continue to be existing. They have to do something with that area.
Yeah.
Because right now everybody's going to Star Wars and Toy Story, and nobody is heading over to Animation Courtyard. So something's got to get done there. My biggest one, which is not going to happen, a new Star Wars attraction or Star Wars weekends coming back. That's what I would want.
Yeah, and you and I talked about this, and we'll probably do this for Force or Pod Awakens, and then I might even just put that up on this channel too, because or some kind of rendition of it. But yes, I agree with you. Animation Courtyard is going to be one they pick. There's been a lot of rumors, Jordan, and speculation because Tower of Terror had been their icon for so long, and if you look at the New Horizons stuff and you look at the new merchandise, Tower of Terror has disappeared off of their icon stuff. There was rumors, and they're just rumors, and I don't think they're true because Hollywood Tower of Terror is celebrating their birthday this year recently. I don't think it changes, but there has been a lot of steam lately about Hollywood Tower of Terror getting changed with the issues that Rock and Roller Coaster has had. Could they possibly, and that kind of runs up into the back of Animation Courtyard. That's a big section of park, and that's been a lot of discussion as of late. It's kind of cooled off since we're getting probably a lot of Animal Kingdom and stuff, but I'm assuming that Animation Courtyard and then discussions about is Rock and Roller Coaster, and that would be losing one of the biggest and most popular roller coasters in Walt Disney World. But there was a lot of discussion of could they change it? And there's also some rumors that Fantasmic is changing, which I don't see that either, but who knows?
What I'll say to that is I don't ever see Tower going away.
Yeah.
It is, I think they do want a version of that always existing. They got rid of the Disneyland one. The Disney World one has always been called the best of the towers. I think that'll stay. But I do think you're right that maybe something with Rock and Roller Coaster and Animation Courtyard can get bumped up together because that's closer than Hollywood.
Yep.
And I think that could be what goes because roller coaster, Rock and Roller Coaster has been constantly down at times. There's some people that are upset with Aerosmith, right? And their whole thing. So I would say that I would put more money on than anything with Tower. And I'll say that just because it's not the icon anymore, I'm actually happy if it's not the icon because I think the icon should always be the center of the park. I don't think we should have this thing where it's like the last thing all the way out to the right. Like it should be the Chinese theater. That should be the icon, not the hat.
Whoa.
Now that they got rid of the Earful Tower, it's going to have to be the Chinese theater. So that would be my icon.
The Earful Tower did appear in art, but many believe that is the one over in Paris, not the one.
Yes.
For Hollywood Studios. So in case you're confused, it's like, what the hell? The Earful Tower's coming back. I'm like, yep, they're putting right in front of the Chinese theater. They're like, the hell with that theater. We're just gonna put something else in front of it. But yeah, Jordan, there's a lot of room to grow at Disney's Hollywood Studios. Like you said, phase 1 of Galaxy's Edge is done. They need more. They really do. That area needs, that is their moneymaker. I would not be shocked, Jordan, and this will make people very upset. I would not be shocked if eventually they come to the decision that maybe Muppets is the one to go. Because there's been a lot of speculation as to Star Tours sits there. They're not getting rid of Star Tours. They're not getting rid of that shop there, which is the exit to Star Tours. That area in Muppets, as much as I love the Muppet show, I really, really do like it. I could see it disappearing. And there's nothing else back there. The Christmas shop's back there and Mama Melrose. And you could get rid of both of those. Mama Melrose is a pretty popular one. But
now I've heard some rumors that they can't get rid of Muppets in the sense of
contracts.
More in the sense of that it's kind of like I guess they could waive this if they want to. But what I read somewhere online was that because Jim Henson is a Disney legend and it is one of his contributions to the park, that it is something that they are not willing to touch negatively, like to get rid of it. So that might be the saving grace for the Muppets is that Jim Henson Disney legend. He did a lot to make that attraction, and it's just what that type of thing. Maybe they could move it.
Yeah,
right?
that's what I was thinking.
That's something. Yeah.
Could they move that into animation? That actually makes sense to move it. Like, it just doesn't fit there. It doesn't work for me. And Lightning McQueen, love the Racing Academy, but you could do the Muppets in that building. It's big enough. So that's what my thought is. Like, you could move Muppets, and like what you said, I could see it leaving. I could actually eventually see moving towards that part of the park, and that's where that third attraction goes, and behind Rise of the Resistance. So, all right, let's move on to the big two, because these are the two that are going to get the most love, most announcements. This is going to take up the most time. Jordan, in a park you and I love so very much, in a land that you love oh so very much, and you can now elaborate, and even you can show the people your shirt. The extinction of the dinosaurs, Jordan 2.0, it's coming.
It is a real countdown to extinction now.
It is. Jordan, on kind of like where you rate your rides, how high is Dinosaur for you? Because it's personally one of my top rides at Walt Disney World.
It's in the top 5, and it's not 5. Okay. Because number 1, I would say, is probably like Pirates.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Splash was up there.
Yeah.
So I would say now, I love Star Tours, right? So you're also looking at, I mean, it's probably in top 3, top 4 Dinosaur. It is one that I would always have to do when I was there. It's one I worked in, not on an attraction side, but in the merchandise side. And I got to see people's pictures all the time. It was really, really cool. It's a shame that it is going away. I think they could have maybe salvaged this a bit, still kept it in Tropical Americas without changing it to Indy, and get rid of the main Dino Land part that people have problems with, which is the Chester and Hester stuff.
Yeah.
But there's a story to Chester and Hester. I mean, if you actually look at all the details and you look at all that stuff, and I took a tour of it because I had to when I was working there. And I used to think the same thing. Why is this a carnival spot? Why is this the... And then you read the story on the ad boards that they have there and through the shop and all that kind of stuff. And it worked for me. But it's just unfortunate that that those days are coming to an end. I made sure I played the games when I was there last time, and I got a prize that says Dino Land on it, Dinorama. So I'm very happy in that regard. But I was always hoping at some point I'd be able to take my kid there and show them, this is where your father worked. And now when I do that, it's going to be in the middle of Encanto's house, and he's going to be even more excited.
Partying around, yeah. So here's my thought on this, right? I agree with you wholeheartedly. Dinosaur is and always will be one of my favorite rides. I will miss it so much. There won't be any uproar from the fans, though, quite like Splash Mountain, mark my words. But that was for different reasons.
No, but there was actual Splash fans that were sad. Yeah, I mean,
yes,
it is a beloved attraction that when you were a kid, if you didn't know some of the stuff that you know about Song of the South and stuff, you didn't know what was going on. So, it was just a good ride in your estimation as a kid.
Yeah.
There were people that obviously made that a culture thing that,
yes.
Yeah. Are not, and yeah, Dinosaur doesn't have any of that. They're not going to be like, oh, Indiana Jones is replacing this.
Right. Jordan, one thing this is going to cause is a traffic jam. I don't see how it's feasible for them to not just close out that whole section behind that bridge. And Animal Kingdom, it goes in that loop. So you'll have to find different pathways back. With Animal Kingdom, because that's what I thought. I was like, that's strange. I guess they could get away with like a small pathway, like how
I think they'll do it
opens.
Yeah, I think they'll do it in
like
sections.
Yeah.
I think they're going to probably start around the Finding Nemo musical stuff.
Yeah.
And do that, and leave Dinosaur for last. That way they still have a big ride. And what you can do with Dinosaur, at least, you can come down, go to the right of Restaurantosaurus, and go that way.
That's true.
And then the rest of that stuff can be closed off. So that's how I think they would do it.
Yeah. Tropical Americas, right? I want to talk about this name because this is where I get confused. And I know people be like, well, duh, Indiana Jones, it can be Americas. That I don't buy that. I don't buy that in Encanto, that's it. So this is where I think, and I know there's a lot of rumors, and it does make sense for Coco to be in Magic Kingdom with the Frontier. It has that similar kind of color scheme where it's that orange, and you can kind of build that into like the orange of Coco. I get that. I understand why that's a thought. But where I think they're going in Magic Kingdom is why I think this is where Coco is actually going to Animal Kingdom with Encanto. There was some speculation, there was some art out there that actually showed Coco having a restaurant inside of Animal Kingdom. Then they said, no, that's the Madrigals. But then there was a lot of conflicting, like, no, I think it's Coco. So Jordan, and Moana was there originally. Remember that. Moana was planned originally with the Madrigals.
This was the Moana stuff originally, and Zootopia in the background. They scrapped that.
That's right. Yeah. So this is what I think. I think Encanto, because they've confirmed Encanto over there, it is going there. I think Indiana Jones is going there. I don't see them building more Indiana Jones stuff because of Hollywood Studios. I feel that Indiana Jones has that ride, and that's it. I really do think Coco is headed for Disney's Animal Kingdom as well. And I could be wrong, and this could debunk everything, but I think there's a bigger focus on where they're taking Magic Kingdom. Then we'll get to it. But I don't know. It just feels like Coco doesn't really fit Magic Kingdom. So we'll see. And it doesn't really fit in Animal Kingdom. People argue that as well. But I don't know. Like, why are they calling it Tropical Americas? And like you said, Jordan, there they go again. Why would they put somebody in there that's not animal related? I don't know. I feel like it's strange that they're calling it Tropical Americas and it's only Encanto. Like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Indy is Tropical Americas, though.
I guess.
He goes on archaeological digs. So he would be that's how you could have kept dinosaur too, by the way.
Yeah.
Is that dinosaurs were found in Tropical Americas,
right,
and you still have Seeker sending you back. Like, you could have still made that work. But they didn't want to.
Okay.
But Indy does go to all these places. So he will, Tropical Americas would be anything Central America South, right? Like Central and South America is what I would think. So you're going to see that's how Coco can fit in there. Now, from what we saw the concept art, I think Coco only had the carousel.
Yes, he did.
And maybe the restaurant of Restaurantosaurus. And then Encanto was up on the house, which is where the old Dinorama used to be.
Yeah.
So I think the reason they called it Tropical Americas is because they wanted to give it a name that fit in with like Asia, Africa, and made it fit in with finally the theme of Animal Kingdom instead of whatever. I don't know what they would have called it if it was Moana and Zootopia. I mean, really, you'd call it what, Polynesia and Zootopia? I don't know. Like, it'd be two separate lands. This, they were able to make it one land and have here's Coco. In this part, here's because I do think Coco will be there. Now, I think Coco will probably have more presence beyond Big Thunder if they do that. And I think that's where you could get an actual Coco attraction. I think at most it would just be the carousel would be what this is. And then maybe the restaurant, and you're able to say this kind of has a feel of walking through Coco, but it's a mix match of everything. And then beyond Big Thunder, you maybe have a more dedicated like Coco ride where they go into the afterlife and all that kind of stuff. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you could do something like that.
Right.
With Indy, the main reason that's going to become Indiana Jones, and I hate to say this, is because that's what is in Disneyland, and it is the same exact track. It's going to be very easy for them to clone, and it's going to be a real easy flip. It should take less than a year, in my estimation, for them to switch from that to Indy. So in my opinion, that's why it's going to be that, and it fits in there maybe better than Dinosaur. So they're like, this will be easy flip. What I hope though is that ride has a different story than the one in Disneyland, even a little bit, just so it's not the same exact thing.
Right.
And then Encanto, that can fit really, I hope, in that you get to see you go through the house. I hope it's like a trackless ride through the house. And you go through one of the doors, and it's the brother's door that's talks to all the animals, and you get to go see all of that. Like, that is what I would do if I was doing a Encanto ride.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people are going to argue, but I think Animal Kingdom's becoming kind of a monster of its own, where Animal Kingdom's tough. Like, Disney's going to have a tough time with it. They can't just always put, and that sounds weird, like Animal Kingdom should have animals, but there's enough animals, I think, to kind of, like you said with Moana, it's a weird, they've really pigeonholed themselves there, where there's not really much they can do. Like, there's really not. And I think, again, Indiana Jones doesn't really fit the animal thing. Like, it's more of like adventure.
Well, you see, he is a human who is an animal.
Yeah. He's an animal.
Yeah.
He's an
We are actually animals. So it fits.
Yeah. No, but
and actually he's afraid of snakes, and snakes are an animal.
Jordan, this prompted me to think something. This is my bold prediction. I think Disney's Animal Kingdom becomes something completely different in the future, and I think it gets a new name. It's the park that I said it just doesn't make sense anymore. I think they're going to rename it. I actually think they're going to lean, unfortunately, into some kind of adventure looking name. I don't know. I just got this weird feeling because of the way they're going with it. It just doesn't make sense. And I've thought that since Pandora. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'd be interested to see kind of what names you could throw out there, like Expedition Park or whatever it might be. But I think Disney's Animal Kingdom is set for a name change eventually. Okay.
I'll take that bet. I'll say that doesn't happen.
Okay. We'll see. I don't think not now, it's not, but I think eventually it does. It has to. But we'll see. Disney's Magic Kingdom. You ready for Magic Kingdom? Because this one's the whopper. The crowning jewel, as many would call it. I think this is where a lot of the money goes, Jordan. I guess, where do we start? What are your thoughts on Disney's Magic Kingdom? What do you think happens? What do you got going on? What's going beyond Big Thunder? Because I guess that's where we can start, and then we can kind of branch out into some other lands that we might think have some changes on the horizon.
So I remember reading a rumor that Villains got shelved, and the thing that's going to go beyond Big Thunder is going to make everybody upset. And then immediately people started talking about it being Cars Land. That would get people upset.
It would. Not me, but it would.
I mean, I would like Cars Land, but I'm also I don't think Cars fits in
That's true.
Magic Kingdom. I think that would be really interesting in the sense of that's not what was originally discussed for Beyond Big Thunder. That would be like so out of left field for me. Where like originally, like you said, it showed Coco and it showed villains, and I don't know why, but they're always very hesitant to pull the trigger on the villain stuff, which is a constant moneymaker for them. This is my biggest rant of the night, Logan. When we come to Disney, they know what sells merchandise.
Yes.
Guess what? Figment sells merchandise.
That's true.
Right? Mr. Toad sells merchandise. They will still get rid of those attractions or change those attractions, but still make shirts about a defunct attraction and rake in the money because they know people liked it, because people like those characters. And it seems like at times they're always almost hinting at that kind of stuff, right? Like villains, we know that they sell merchandise. They've had villain nights, right? They've had all that kind of stuff. What gets the biggest cheer at the Halloween parade? It's the villain portion.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
But my my main thing is like they know what sells. They seem to dangle that in front of us all the time, and say, here's this thing we removed or that we know you want, and we're not going to give it to you, but we're still going to sell the merchandise of it, and you're still going to pay us money for it, and you're going to love it. And if they backtrack on the villain stuff, I think that would be a real shame, unless, which we've talked about before, is that they're hinting at a fifth park, which I think they shouldn't do yet. But if it became in there, right? And they're like, oh, we'll just do cars here, and then we'll do a whole villains thing where we're not pressed for room in our own fifth park of villains or whatever.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought too, and I hadn't really thought about that. And I am all in they're going to build a fifth park camp. I think it's going to happen. I don't think very soon, but I think in the next decade you'll know they are. But yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't even think of that, so it kind of makes me hesitant to do this. But I think villains is coming. I don't know why, but I just feel that with the amount of space they have back there. Um, that they could really start to do something like that. I think you're right. It would be interesting in a fifth park because you're not confined to that space because it's not going to be as big, obviously, and expansive as a big park. Maybe Disney's going, will people go to a villain specific park? The answer is yes. Dark Universe is selling for a reason over at Epcot, or sorry, at Epic Universe. And I don't want to bring Universal and compare the two because they're two very different parks. But again, I think this is, Jordan, where I really wanted to talk about, like, Disney is listening. They know that we like the villains. I think a villains thing is coming. I just don't know in what capacity. I'm saying it's more of this because they kind of, I think, are waiting to see if that fifth park could possibly, if Universal ever lets go of Marvel, that they're kind of sitting in that waiting game of like, could they not? If not, could we maybe do more Star Wars somewhere? Like, I think there's some of that in Disney's brain going on right now because of their IPs. I think they're thinking, I could put some of the Marvel characters in here because of the deal. What does that look like? So again, I think Disney's kind of battling with this fifth park. What is it going to be? But I think for now, I think that Disney does lean to the villains. I think you finally start to maybe see some villain attractions, some villain lands. I think that they're seeing what Dark Universe does over at Epic Universe. It's selling a ton already. People are excited about it. They're thrilled about monsters. They're thrilled about the villains, and the villains don't have to win. And I think that's what Epic Universe is showing you. Villains aren't going to win these. It's going to take you through and see villains, but the villains aren't going to win. And I think that's what Disney was hesitant about, right? Is that when they build this land, what does that look like? What are kids going to think of that? What are, that's where it's a more family oriented park. But I think even the kids like villains. So it's an interesting dynamic. I think Coco makes sense. Coco would be the easy choice, but I'm saying that Disney finally listens, and this is where, because Josh D'Amaro said this is going to be the biggest thing they've ever done, and I just think that with the things they've already announced, that there has to be something way bigger that none of us were expecting. And if he's really speaking the truth, which I think he is, because I don't think Iger would have let him say that, because he seems to be much more calculated. I do think that Disney goes big in the Magic Kingdom. And I think $16 billion means we're getting an expansive new land. That being said, beyond Big Thunder, Villains Land for Logan, I think the Liberty Boat goes. I think Tom Sawyer goes. I think the Prairie Outpost gets a retheme, which is in Frontierland. I think that a Tiana restaurant is coming. I think Pecos Bill is going to go down. I've got this really weird feeling. I knew you weren't going to like this. Pecos Bill is going away, I think, because Tortuga Tavern is turned into a temporary merch site, and they would always utilize that space, but they took down all the signage. They put a temporary sign over it. There is just something about Pecos that doesn't work for me. I think it connects to Prairie Outpost next door. It has the size to be something bigger. I think
originally that was going to be the Tiana restaurant.
Yeah, it was. So I think that's original. I do think that's where they go back to because of how popular her attraction has been. I think it goes to that now. I think they're set up for that. So I think all of Frontierland's getting ready to get blasted out. I think there's going to be a lot of changes. There's been rumors that there's some things going away that people are going to be very, very upset about. I think the Liberty Boat is what people are talking about. I don't know if there's like a fondness for that thing, but I know a lot of people
It's
would
a
be
very
sad.
classic thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think there is fondness for it.
Yeah. And Tom Sawyer too. I know people are drawn to Tom Sawyer, but I think they dry that thing out completely and they just
not many
destroy
are
it.
drawn to it in the sense of actually going to it.
Right. They like it. They like to say they like it and it's fun, but I think it's gone. There's no way it stands the test of time. It's a big waste of money. It's a pit. Like it's falling apart. They've ripped up a bunch of things back there recently. So I really do. I think that they're going to completely evaporate that stuff and just take it Frontierland all the way out. They'll put some more water back through that area because they need that water to run because it runs through different parts of the park. But I think they make that land up and that ground up back there. And that's why I think it's going to be Villains. But we'll see. That's my Beyond Big Thunder stuff. Anything in Beyond Big Thunder? Because I was going to move on to another piece of Magic Kingdom.
No.
Okay. Jordan, there's been a lot of rumors as well. There's an Adventureland area where there is a lot of land. This is another one that I thought maybe this is where people get upset. I thought that maybe there is a chance that the Jungle Cruise goes down.
They actually have an expansion pad back there.
Yeah, so, no, I knew that.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm just thinking about like people are like, there's something coming. There's something coming that's going to make people. I think that's where there's got to be something big that people aren't thinking about that goes away. Seems like Disney's good at doing that. So I don't know. But yes, the Adventureland does have a expansion pad area back there. You can actually see it if you drive back on that back road where West Clock is. But Jordan, I think this is where Moana goes. Like, I think it's 100%. This is made for Moana. This area is made for her. We're going to get a good ride. I think we're going to get a unique water ride, not a flume ride, but I think we're going to get some kind of water attraction with her. And it's going to actually be a ride. I don't know if that's a roller coaster or a dark ride like Pirates. Water. Yeah. Like, no, not a walkthrough.
No, I think you're right. I think they take whatever they had here originally planned and shove it in there.
Yep. Do you have any more for Magic Kingdom? I have a couple more.
What I had was no, that was all I had.
All right, let me take you to another land that I think this is also going to be very controversial, but I think needs to happen. Tomorrowland needs to go. And by that, I mean that just does not fit for me. Either make sure that it is Tomorrowland and redo most of that land. And I'm talking about Astro Orbiter. I'm not really convinced that stays as it is. I could see a retheming of that one. Alien sits completely empty, which was the Stitch ride. I actually think Tomorrowland Speedway could also be axed because I feel like that could make some people very upset. I know a lot of people are, that's one of their first rides they've ever done. But I don't know. I was starting to think about Magic Kingdom. Like, there's a lot of things that could be happening that we don't really see, but Tomorrowland really needs a revamp. We've got Tron now, we've got Space Mountain, but I think anything around that is pretty fair game. And people are like, oh my gosh, don't take away the People Mover. I don't think they would ever take that or Carousel away. But I do think everything
what I've heard
is kind of up for grabs.
Similar to the Muppet thing is that Carousel is a protected one because of Walt working on it.
I could see that.
So I think that one's safe.
Yeah, and they just replaced the seats. There's no chance that goes away.
Yeah.
That's if I had to pick any ride or attraction in all the parks, that would be the one that would never leave. That and Haunted Mansion. Never, ever with those.
Pirates won't leave either. Too.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
It is a huge moneymaker.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was my other thought. I do feel like we're closing in on Tomorrowland, getting ready to be an area of focus because I feel like that's where Inside Out could go.
What I would do for Tomorrowland to make it not out of date all the time is I'd make it a retrofuturistic place. So it's not always about the tomorrow of like actually today, but like what people thought, like the Jetsons almost, how it was like this futuristic but retro thing, kind of what they're doing with Fantastic Four in the movie. They keep talking about it being a retro futuristic 60s. so it'll look like further ahead of our 60s, but still be kind of futuristic. Stuff like that. Live up to that. Flying cars, space travel, cool, sleek 60s rounded designs, stuff like that can make it look really cool and have its own unique identity, and not have to worry about trying to change it every couple years when you're trying to make it look like the next future.
Nope, that's a good point. That's a very good point. I think that's it, Jordan, unless you had anything else that you wanted to kind of expand on. Did you want to talk to? No, I'm just kidding. I was going to go Disney Springs joke again, but yeah, no, I think we've got a lot to be excited about as Disney fans for the first time in a long time, Jordan. And I do feel like, I wouldn't say it's much of a love letter to the fans, but I do feel like there's some corrective action that needs to happen for this D23. I do think that they need to make some big announcements. I do think that they need to show the fans this is what we've been working on. Just hang in there. It's been rough. We know it's been rough. And that's the other thing too I was thinking about today, Jordan. I was like, they need to be honest. I do think they need to get up there and say, we hear you. We understand that there is frustration, but I think we're excited about the changes that are coming, and we hope that you're along for the ride too. Because I feel like that would go a long way, because unlike Universal, right? Like what you said, people are excited on the day of when things are announced, but I don't have that emotional attachment like I do with Disney, because I work there. We live there. It's been such a huge part of my life. But I feel like getting up there and really doing a nice job at this D23 is really important for Disney.
Agree.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, yeah, Jordan, if you want to plug your stuff one more time, I guess the podcast that would relate, you can plug those now and tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, Pod Awakens, at Pod Awakens on all of our social media. That's for our Star Wars podcast, where we'll talk any big Star Wars news that comes out of this panel. And then at TO Infinity Saga on Twitter for To the Infinity Saga and Beyond, an MCU fan podcast, where we'll talk any of the Marvel news in depth. We just had our best week ever listener-wise for our Deadpool and Wolverine reviews, our Comic-Con reactions, all that good stuff. So make sure you check that out over there if you want a more in-depth Marvel discussion with me and my friends. And Logan's been on there a couple times. He's on the Pod Awakens a lot with our chronological Clone Wars watch. So if you like Logan and you can stand me, then there you go. You'll find us over there too.
Well, Jordan, I just want to thank you for coming on. We are excited about D23. Leave in the comments, subscribe, like, tell us if we're wrong. Tell us if Jordan and I are nuts. Tell us how great looking we are, even though we don't have any hair left. But all joking aside, we really appreciate it. We are very excited about next Saturday. I'll be going live next Saturday. I don't know if Jordan, if you planned on going live with me. I think you said that you were interested.
Yeah, I think so far we're planning for that. Yes.
Okay. So if not, I'll be live. If Jordan is able to join us, we'll be live at 10 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday, and we will be talking and reacting about all things D23. And then I think Friday I might even jump on live to do any kind of entertainment reaction. So yeah, if you want to give us a like, subscribe, go find us on anywhere you can find your podcast at We Met Behind the Castle. We Met Behind the Castle on TikTok. I've got a TikTok going on over there now, YouTube. Whatever you can find us, if you're listening to the podcast, we really appreciate it. Rate us on Apple and Spotify, because you can do that now. But thanks again for watching, and we'll see you guys next week when we talk all things D23.